Good morning, everybody. JohnnyJans here once again on my tour of all the Walt Disney World resorts. And today we are still in the value category. And my next value hotel is a boatload of nostalgia. It is Disney's Pop Century Resort. That's right. We are going to go time traveling through all the different decades and reminisce about things of the past. So grab that bowling ball, wind up those yo-yos, and plug in that Sega Dreamcast, because we're taking a trip down memory lane and doing some meandering around. All right, starting things off in the resort here at the Porkashire. Nothing too special about the Porkashire other than it's a drop-off, but there is a really classy golf cart sitting in front, and that is the Cadillac of golf carts right there, mainly because it is. And already every resort seems to have their logo right in front as we open the door, and Pop Century is no exception. Here we go. A little quick look of the lobby. It is spacious. It has to be, because they're dealing in a massive amount of guests that come here to the Valley Resort. But what makes this lobby so exciting, and what is my favorite part about the lobby, are the things on the walls showcasing a lot of the most popular stuff through the decades, from the 50s all the way to the 90s. Beginning our time travel journey, we start things off here in the 50s cabinet. I recognize some of these things. There's a record there, and a hula hoop, and Cooties, the game. And then we're going to slide over to the 60s. We got the Mickey Mouse Club, what they're famous for. Bowling became popular in the 50s. I'll talk about that later here at this resort. And here is stuff that you would see in a diner, because diners, they became a big thing. And here we got 60s fashion, the hippie era. And oh my gosh, no way, look, we landed on the moon. That's awesome. And we'll scroll over to more things as we round out the 60s. Route 66, very popular. And we cross over into the 70s. Disco. And in movies, we got the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Love it. If you haven't seen it, you should. And of course, Star Wars. What would the legacy of film be without Star Wars? And could you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? And it wouldn't be the place we were at today if it wasn't for Disney World opening in 1971. And passing by the big wheel and the other pillar, we are entering into the 80s section, starting off right here by these 80s toys. And underneath Simon, we have Thundercats, ho! And not to be overshadowed by He-Man, but one of the most popular toys around my bedroom back in the 80s was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Collected many of action figures and many of things back in the day. Even had that gumball machine too. I don't know if you had this, but I definitely had this on my kitchen counter back when I was a kid. That weird mushroom. It seems like everything in the house was full of mushrooms and stuff. But not in a bad way. And we have classic 80s video games. Look at this, Atari. Famous games like Asteroids, Space Invaders, and one of my personal favorites, Superman. I remember that was a really fun game. But we also had E.T. Not as much fun. And the last decade here is the 90s. And we've got Game Boy, Sega Dreamcast, Pokemon, and extreme things. Because everything else in the 90s was extreme. And this is your one-stop shop, Classic Hall. So you can enjoy classic nostalgia and then buy some new stuff. Create some new nostalgia of your own. If you want to shop all things pop, you're going to come here where everything is pop, shopping, and dining, because the gift shop just kind of merges in to the food court. You're not gonna find a lot of nostalgia items here, just mostly Disney stuff. And the Christmas stuff is out. Let it be known, Christmas time. And here's the food court. See how the merchandise area, it just blends into the food court? It's all together, so you can eat and walk a few steps and buy stuff. There we go. Tons of different selections here. Leaving, they tell you to remind you, have a magical day. And then when you're done shopping and eating, you can spend more money at the Fast Forward Arcade. Okay, what it's really about is outside, because again, we're still in a Valley Resort, so all the cool stuff is outside to do. And this place is popping, because you can tell by the giant sign in the back side of the building, PoP. They will not let you forget where you're staying here. Decades numbers here on the side of the building, 50s, 60s. They're also painted in their iconic decade color scheme, 70s, very, very disco. As we move down here, this is just outside the food court area too, so you could also grab a table and eat outside that busy food court that we've seen over there. And here we got the 80s, very early computers right there. If you were gonna sum up the 90s, very metal. 90s was very metal, so there you go. Directory of Pop Century, 10 buildings, just like the All-Star, and a giant lake in back. Then starting off with our first feature pool here at Pop Century, and it is groovy. Welcome to the Hippy Dippy pool. There's no shortness of flower power here. You can see the giant flower, very 60s indeed. Can you dig it? And they also have 60s things. Here we got a giant Baloo, and we got Mowgli down here representing the Jungle Book, which actually came out 1967. Thus is why it's here over at the 60s spot. Also Play-Doh, popular in the 60s. The flowers are blooming indeed. They're spraying into the pool, but they're not so much where they're gonna bother anyone in the middle of the pool. But if you still just wanna enjoy swimming under a fountain, you can swim right under one of these flowers here. So there's a better look at the flower right there. And that is heavy. And after all the pool time, we can chill and get a drink over here at Petals, which is symbolic of the hippie nature of the Hippy Dippy pool. Moving off to the left first, away from the 60s. We are crossing into another decade now. We are heading in to the 70s. That's right, platform shoes and disco. Looks like those guys are having a disco fun time right now. One thing I'm gonna refer to this value resort, although it is a value, I'm gonna call Pop Century Value Plus, because you get a little bit more than you would at the All-Stars, mainly in transportation, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But we got Goofy right next to this awesome classic car, this Dodge Charger. See, nostalgia all over the place. Even got a Duncan yo-yo in the background, and we are in the 60s section right here, and that's probably gonna be your best place to stay if you want to stay right next to Classic Hall, where everything is, where the food is, where the merchandise is, where your transportation options are. You'll probably want to stay over here in the 60s section. Also, campfire. Welcome to Valley Resort. Blows my mind every time. What do we got going on here in the 70s? Now, again, Value Plus, so they're gonna kick it up a notch, and they're gonna kick it up a notch with nostalgia. We're about to see giant-sized things that'll take us back to the 70s, and nothing takes me back more than a giant foosball court. Talk about a picture opportunity. You can weave in and out of here. You can feel like you're a ball, and what it would be like to be trapped in a foosball table. Oh my gosh. Look at this thing. It looks like something out of Squid Game. Well, maybe not him, but definitely her. Anyway, this is what the ball feels like going through a foosball table board. And to the right, iconic Mickey phone We saw one in the cases by the 70s before in Classic Hall, and here it is, supersized. Another thing I saw up on the wall was a big wheel, and this is a big wheel if I ever saw one before. I mean, check out the size of that wheel right there. You can even see the scale as to the foosball player. It's even bigger than her. My gosh. Now I can't wait to go over to the 80s, 90s area where I'm gonna know more stuff. This tucked away in the corner, it's the greatest Twister game ever. You could actually stop here, give it a spin, and play a rousing game of Twister. They have it all set up for you. Twister! I remember over at All-Star Resort where we had the running trail and you kind of just ran along the road and in front of the All-Stars. Well, they have a running trail here at PoP too, but again, value plus. This is one of the things you get. You get to run along Hourglass Lake on the side of you. And bonus, as you run the running trail around here, on the PoP side anyway, you're gonna have these boards that go through the different decades and they tell you about things that happened in that decade. 1984, Michael Jackson puts out Thriller. That marks that we're heading into the 80s territory. Here, one more 70s things for you. Potato Heads, Mr. and Mrs. And get a fun picture as they hang out, probably the largest Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head that you're ever gonna find. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure. As we move into the 80s, we got the Rubik's Cube. That wretched thing. You ever solve one of those? Because I haven't. Well, my Rubik's Cube looks more like that, all multicolored. This is what it looks like on the inside of a Rubik's Cube. It's quite cool. It's also shaded. Cool temperature-wise. And awesome. All those things. We are greeted with the most greatest game of the 80s. Very popular. We got Pac-Man along the building here. Greatest invention Sony ever made. You got a Walkman, and that's the sports Walkman, so I think it can get wet a little bit. That's how we used to listen to music, kids. We strap on that big block pair of headphones, and we jam. So that marks off our large thing for the 80s and 90s. But what also is large and awesome in the 90s, this guy, he was everywhere. Roger Rabbit. Like to see him come back more in the Disney parks. He is awesome. And as we cross over to the 90s building, we are keeping it real indeed. All things 90s. Those round things, folks, they are CDs, compact discs. We would have quite the collection saved up in my car back in the day. That is how you did trips. Check out, I got rollerblades on the side. We got people dancing and baggy clothes too. We didn't like wearing our clothes that fit too well. And one thing I love about the pools here at PoP Century and pretty much the other value resorts is that the pools, you don't understand exactly what they are until you look at them from above. Case in point, here we are at the computer pool, and you're probably looking at this and be like, well, JohnnyJans, this is just a square. And I would say, whatever. Because checking out from above, you could put the keyboard over there together and you have a giant 90s looking computer laptop thing. That is theming to the max. And for fun, you can jump on the keyboards on the side. They're soft too, so kids can play on it. So we got a giant size computer, also marking a very important date. Thanks to abcnews.com up there. Animal Kingdom opens today, April 22nd, 1998. That's how it looked on this laptop. I feel like the scale of the 90s laptop was about the same size too. Now, if you're staying here at PoP, your rooms are going to be pretty basic. They're not going to have suites, not like All-Star Music and some other value resorts we're going to see later, but they do have a Murphy bed, so you can be able to fold it up to get more space out of your small room. We have meandered on over to the central hub, which is the 60s again, where I told you everything is the main location for this resort. So I went on the left side. Now I'm going to go on the right side, and we're going to go backwards in time, back to the past, to the next decade as we take a look at the 50s. Actually, there's only one decade, which is neat, because if you go left, you get 3 decades actually. You get the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But if you go right, you only get the 50s. That's interesting. I never really thought about that before until now. How about that? So here we are in the 60s, and we're going to the 50s. They only have one giant size numbers, because that's where we're heading. Definitely know we're stepping back in time to the 50s when you see the giant size bowling pin, which bowling became popular in the 50s. All right, we have time traveled here at this feature pool. It is a bowling pin pool. We got bowling balls. Remember, you can't really use them. And check it out, we have an accurately portrayed bowling lane that lines up. Well, I guess if you're gonna throw a ball down the lane, it'll end up in the pool, because it seems like the bowling pin crosses over the pool area. But at least you can get your form out here. It's like an old diner jukebox, the kind you see at your table at the diner right there. And check out the locker room. It's like a bowling shoe cabinet. And we also have giant size Lady and the Tramp statues. And that is because Lady and the Tramp actually premiered back in 1955. So I always wondered why they chose Lady and the Tramp around the bowling pin pool, and now I know. I personally like staying here at the 50s and the bowling pin pool, because you're close to the pool and you're also really close to the main area. It's not too far to walk, but you don't have the craziness that the hippy dippy pool is gonna attract, especially at night. Everything in the buildings are classic here, and the 50s is no exception. Classic 50s. So that's how you know the name of your buildings. You'll know the decade, and that it's classic. Out here in front of Pop Century, you can see where the bus is parked. This is where you're gonna catch the buses on your way out to the rest of Walt Disney World. As fun as catching a bus outside your resort actually is, and traveling on the road and such, where we're going, roads, we don't need roads, because our highway is the sky. That's right, this is the station to the Disney Skyliner, one of the best modes of transportation across Walt Disney World. Having access to the Skyliner is the reason why I call this a value plus resort, because just having that alone is gonna make your vacation so much better. It's faster than the bus. It can get crowded from time to time, but if you can time it out, it'll work out really well for you. And it's just a really fun way to get where you want to go. I love the Skyliner, and I love that they extended out here to the Valley Resorts. And if you stay here at the 60s section, you're closer to the Skyliner, because as you can see, you just take this path and it connects to a bridge right in the middle of Hourglass Lake. And the cool thing about this section of the Skyliner too, it's the only section that goes over water before you see some of our other resorts. Okay, I don't know if you can hear it right now, if I'm allowed to show it, but Bittersweet Symphony is playing on the radio in the 60s version by the pool, which isn't really fitting. I feel like it should be over at the 90s. But I love this song because it just reminds me of the days when I was hanging out at the resort at like 3 o'clock. They'd play Bittersweet Symphony, and then I knew I had to go. So just like it's playing now, it's 11 o'clock, and I have to go. Well, there it is, folks. A look at all things poppin' here at Disney's Pop Century Resort. What a stroll down memory lane I just had. I love seeing all these things from my childhood and before. Just so much nostalgia is at this resort. It just can't help to put a smile on your face. And you're still saving money because it's a value resort. So that's putting a smile on your face too. Till next time at the next Disney resort, I'm JohnnyJans, and as always, I'll catch you out there meandering around. And join me next time as we draw the conclusion of my tour to the Walt Disney World Value Resorts. Until then, I'll sketch you later.